This tutorial assumes you know the basics of Blender. I start with a cylinder with 16 vertices and no cap fill. I set the origin to the 3D cursor and scale the cylinder to the desired size, applying all the transforms. I add a horizontal edge loop to the center and extrude the edge loop out along the X and Y axis. Then add a bevel with multiple loop cuts to give the barrel a rounded form. I select every other vertical edge loop and add a bevel. Then scale these new faces inward. This will make it look like they are separate pieces of wood. I scale the top and bottom edge loops inward to add some thickness, bridging the edge loops. I then add a horizontal edge loop in the middle of the interior and add a bevel with multiple loop cuts. I select the top interior edge loop and move it along the Z-axis to flatten the top faces. Repeating this process for the bottom interior edge loop. Under the UV editing workspace, I select the top and bottom edges on the interior and exterior and a vertical edge along the back. I mark the seams, select the entire barrel, and unwrap the barrel. In object mode, I add a smooth by angle modifier and tick the ignore sharpness option. And note, if you're using version 4.0 or earlier, you can just right-click and shade auto smooth. For the lids, in edit mode, I duplicate the top and bottom interior edge loops. I then separate these edge loops. In object mode, I hide the barrel and select the lids. Then in edit mode, I select the lids and clear the seam. In edge select mode, I select the edges and add the faces. I add new faces to the edges that need them to make separate planks. I select the smaller faces and extrude them along the Z-axis. I check the normals to make sure they're facing the correct direction. To add some thickness, I select each lid separately and extrude them along the Z-axis. Under the UV editing workspace, I select the top and bottom edges and a vertical edge along the back. I mark the seams and then select the lids and unwrap them. I select the barrel and in edit mode, select the faces I want to become the metal bands. I duplicate the faces and separate them from the barrel. In edit mode, I clear the seams. I select the small interior faces and then use Ctrl Numpad Plus to select the sides of those faces, deleting the selected faces. I select the vertices left behind and merge the vertices in the center. I add a solidify modifier above the smooth by angle modifier, applying it in object mode. Under the UV editing workspace, I select the top and bottom edges and a vertical edge along the back. I mark the seams, select the metal bands, and unwrap them. I select all the wood objects and unwrap them onto one UV map. With UV sync turned on, I select the slats and rotate them so they're properly positioned on the UV map. Then turn off UV sync and select all the UV islands. Under the UV menu, I select Pack Islands, turning off the Rotate option. The link to the textures I'm using are in the description. I go into Material Preview, split the viewport and open the shader editor. And I'll be using the Node Wrangler add-on. I make a new material for the wood. I select the principled shader and use Shift-Control-T to open the wood texture. Add a mix color node and connect the AO map and the color map, changing the blend mode to multiply. I also increase the scale of the textures using the mapping node. Then I apply this same material to the lids. To add some more detail to the material, add a grunge texture. The link is in the description. I duplicate the mix color node and connect the grunge texture to the B input and the color map to the A input, changing the factor to 1. I connect the second mix color node to the A input of the first mix color node. I connect the color of the grunge texture to the factor of the mix color node. And I add a color ramp in between the grunge texture and the factor of the second mix color node. I change the blend mode to subtract. I can then move the color stops to change how the grunge appears on the wood. I select the metal objects and unwrap them onto one UV map. With the UV sync option activated, I select the horizontal islands and rotate them so they're properly positioned on the UV map. I then turn off UV sync and select all the UV islands. Under the UV menu, I select Pack Islands, turn off the Rotate option. I make a new material for the metal and assign it to the metal bands. I select the principled shader and use Shift-Control-T to open the metal textures. And I also increase the scale of the textures using the mapping node. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoyed this video about making a wooden barrel in Blender, you may enjoy this video. Have a good day.